When you're working under a leader who won't listen to you, who won't acknowledge you, who won't give you feedback, and really doesn't honor the fact that you're even there, then people kind of clam up, go into their shell, and almost isolate themselves. And you can see it in their facial expression and their body language. When you have somebody who really believes in you and trusts you and has a great deal of confidence in you, man, that builds you up. That
It
puts
does.
you up on cloud nine. Like, wow, somebody actually believes in me. They listen to my ideas and my thoughts and my opinions. They care that I showed up today. It's a difference maker.
Welcome to the Well to Lead podcast, where we explore the dynamic relationship between personal wellness and effective leadership. Hey guys, we're privileged this morning to have in our studio Mr. Kevin Johnson. Hey Kevin, how you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for the invitation. Glad to be with you.
Absolutely, man. Glad to have you. Glad that you're here. So, Kevin, we got a lot of terrain to cover today, and I've already talked a little bit about you to our audience, so they kind of have a little bit of information on you already. But I'd like for you to take just a moment or two for you to kind of give us a more deeper dive into your background and just tell us a little bit more about your journey.
All right. Well, that sounds like a plan. So I'll just kind of kick it off, starting with the family. I'm a native of Richmond, Virginia. Grew up there, attended Richmond Public Schools, matriculated to Virginia Commonwealth University there in the School of Business. Upon graduation, I met this young lady. We started to date. We fall in love and we get married. That was 32 years ago. And
Wow.
from our union, we've raised 3 sons. Now, our oldest son came into our life by way of adoption. We met him when he was 3 months old. He had been born 3 months premature, 2 pounds, 4 ounces. But his parents got some really, really good counsel and some good advice, and they put him up for adoption as opposed to aborting. And then my wife and I come along. So he came into our life a week after we brought him home. My wife said she wasn't feeling good. She had a stomach ache.
Wow.
She went to the doctor and discovered that she was pregnant. So 11 months later, here comes Chris, our middle son. And then interestingly enough, 2 years after that, our baby boy came. And the story on him is that he did everything that little children do. He rode in the wagon, he swang on the swing set, he laughed, he cried, he jumped for joy, played basketball. He did everything that children, but he didn't talk. He didn't say a word for
Wow.
2 years. And we knew something wasn't quite right. So eventually we got the recommendation from his pediatrician to take him to get diagnosed. And it kind of was what we suspected. He was diagnosed with autism. So I started this journey with him, as I did with my younger brother, with being an advocate and supporting and loving and encouraging, fighting for and advocating for. And now he's 27, right? And
Wow.
doing good. He went through a season of seizure disorder. Kind of came from out of the blue. Don't really understand where it came from because we don't have that history in our family. But he has a great neurologist and a wonderful dietitian, and he's been seizure free now for going on 3 years. So that's kind of the journey. That's kind of how I introduce people to who I am and what I do, what makes me tick, what I believe in, where my gifts might be, as opposed to talking about accomplishments and achievements. You know, in this world, people often ask you to define success. And
Yes.
success is very subjective because it means different things to different people. It might be related to the zip code you live in, the clothes you wear, who knows you, who do you know, how much is in your bank account. To me, success has nothing to do with any of that. Success to me is being a good husband and a fantastic father.
I
And
love it.
so that's what
Yeah.
it's all about. And that's my life story, and I'm sticking to it.
Kevin, I love it, man. You simplified the whole process, man, and I really appreciate you sharing the story about your family, and that really helps us to connect with you and to really understand. And I thank you for sharing that with, with our audience, because as we continue down this journey, just knowing some of that makes a huge difference, man. But I completely agree with you. When it's all said and done, those are the two areas right there that mean the most. Married, you said 32 years. Huh?
Yes, sir. Yep. Just
Oh man.
celebrated 32 earlier this year. And what we do,
Wow.
we go on a national tour. So we we celebrate at home first. Couple of weeks ago we were in Boston, and then
Okay.
at the end of this month we'll be in Sacramento.
Okay.
And then after that, later this summer in August, we'll be on Martha's Vineyard. So what we do, we
All
just
right.
kind of invite family and
So
friends where we are to come on in. Let's celebrate. And, you can do it. You can do it. So those couples that have been married 10 years, you can do it. You've been married 15 years, you can do
right.
it. Just make it fun, and before you know it, it'll be 30 years.
Yeah, you're right, man. And hey, I'm in that 30-year club myself. My wife and I, we're in that 30-year club, 30-year plus club, I
All right,
call it.
good.
And yeah, and it's a beautiful thing, man. That's why I said, just you kind of starting with that was just really awesome, because you don't see it a lot nowadays, but you're right. I mean, you can share with the younger folks that are just, at that 10-year mark, or just, getting married, that hey, it's possible. And it's a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, but anything worth having, you got to put some work in. So
Yes,
we grow
absolutely.
together. We grow together over those
That's
years,
it.
man. So that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So when I was thinking about, how we would kind of, go down the path on this conversation. Obviously, I told you a little bit about myself and kind of about the podcast. And I've been really, really big for a long time on leadership, and just how important leadership is to not only organizations, but us leading our home. Because you, again, going back to the family piece. And I know that you've spent some time in that space, and maybe we can drill down a little bit more on what you're actually doing in the space of helping leaders and developing leaders to be more effective.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I worked for the federal government for 34 years, 1 year out
Okay.
of college, and I was really, really fortunate and had some really good sponsors and champions that poured into me, coached me, and mentored me. So I served during my 34 years as a frontline, mid-level, and senior level leader across the federal government, mostly with the Department of Defense and with the Department of Treasury. But within those departments, there are a lot of different agencies where you can do a lot of different work roles. And I
Hmm.
had an opportunity to experience and see a lot that was taking place. My last position prior to retirement 7 years ago was chief of staff. I was the chief of staff at one of the major directorates within the Department of Defense. And two things really struck me during that assignment. Number one, I was paying close attention to the staff that were being led by what I saw as good leaders. And I was very observant to the staff and how they responded to those leaders that they were under that didn't have a clue about what they were doing. And the
Mm,
two were diametrically opposed in terms of their productivity, their performance, their attitude, their mindset, their inspiration, and quite frankly, their desire to just show up. And it struck me. And so 7 years ago, after I retired, I stood up a company to say, I'm gonna do something about this wide gap that we see and experience. The wide gap is what people are looking for in their leaders and what leaders are actually delivering. It's a wide
mm,
gap. What
mhm.
can I do to make a difference? So prior to retirement, I got busy earning my credentials so I would have credibility in the marketplace as a trainer, as a coach, as a mentor, and as a speaker. And it just so happens that I'm an author, so I flipped the script to focus on leadership. So
Gotcha.
My company is all things leadership, leadership development training, executive coaching. My team and I have 10, a diverse team of 10. We work with government agencies, we work with churches and other faith-based organizations. We work with corporations, nonprofits, and academic institutions because that's where the people are. That represents the marketplace where people are. And we've been doing that for the last 7 years. This year, 2025, is the year that we're now expanding internationally. We're doing more work on an international level. And it's really, really exciting to see how aspiring leaders, frontline leaders, mid level leaders, and senior level leaders, is interesting to see how their eyes open when they get access to new strategies and new principles that they can use now to lead their people, lead their teams, lead their organizations. And so that's what brings the most fulfillment. Just watching leaders who have a desire to learn actually learn and then go out and have an action plan. And I'm just
and
a firm
execute.
believer that better leaders help to make the world a much better place because
Yeah,
they
I'm with you.
understand that it's more than just acumen and subject
Hmm.
matter expertise, but it's also how you take care of your people.
Yeah.
And so that's what drives me, that's what motivates me. A lot of it started from home, caring for a younger brother who had a mental disability and raising a son who's autistic. You have to be much more attentive and focused on exactly what they need based upon their ability or their disability to get things done. And again, just took it out into the community, took it out into the marketplace, and I see that these principles work. And so I have an obligation.
Wow.
We have an obligation to share what we know to make our world better. So that that
No,
that's the
I
journey.
love it. I love it, man. I love the way that you gave us a high level view there. And I'm interested to find out as you kind of gave us a great picture of how you got into this and what you're some of the things you're doing. When you were at the Department of Defense, when you were working with them and you saw that there were, these two opposites here, right? Or you saw one area where you saw how people responded to a good leadership or effective leadership, and then, flip that. You saw the opposite side. What were some of the things that you noticed? Because the challenges that I have seen, and there are many, and you're right. We have an obligation to get out and serve and find ways that we can, help solve some of these problems that we see where there's a leadership gap. But what did you notice? What were some of the things that you can maybe pinpoint that you could share with our audience that you saw that were glaring, so to speak?
Yeah. So the first thing is body language and motivation to tap into your own potential and bring your
Mm,
best. They're both diametrically opposed. When you're working under a leader who won't listen to you, who won't acknowledge you, who won't give you feedback, and really doesn't honor the fact that you're even there, then people kind of clam up, go into their shell, and almost isolate themselves. And you can see it in their facial expression and their body language.
mhm.
Conversely, when you have somebody who really believes in you and trusts you and has a great deal of confidence in you, man, that builds you up. That
It
puts
does.
you up on cloud nine. It's like, wow, somebody actually believes in me. They listen to my ideas and my thoughts and my opinions. They care that I showed up today. It's a difference maker. So
Yeah,
helping leaders to understand that it's more than just what we know, but it's also how we care for the people who are under our leadership to get work done.
gotcha.
And if people know that you care, I mean, Maya Angelou taught us this, you know, the quote,
Mhm.
and it's so true because we're talking about human behavior. You can be the most knowledgeable person in the world, but if I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you could care less that I showed up today,
Yep, yep. That's
that's it.
it. That's it. No, that's a good point, man, and I think as as you're articulating that, and I'm actually thinking about situations where I've experienced, what you just talked about, where you had a leader that was over you that really did not the leader wasn't intentional in his mindset to develop and add value to the lives of the folks that he were in charge over. And so sometimes I used to question whether or not you really have a true leader or you just have someone that was given a role. For example, you know, just, you placed in a role to manage people, but you don't have that intentionality that comes with, showing concern and actually taking the time to invest in helping to develop those that are under you. Because once like you said, once they know that you care, then that actually is the motivation that they need to do all that they can do and even, you know, be more effective in their roles. So do you think that, with the difference between, effective leaders and managers, I mean, can you give us an idea of what's the difference, from a leader that has influence and just someone that's been given the role as a manager?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the latter portion first. That happens far too frequently in organizations across the entire marketplace where the leadership team is looking at a person in their organization who's very, very efficient and very effective in their work role. They 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 roll up the sleeves, they get it done, they get a good performance evaluation every year, and they've demonstrated that they really, really know their stuff. And then they decide because of that, that now we're going to move you up into a leadership position where you're responsible for people.
Hmm.
But they don't realize it takes some preparation and it takes some training to get that person prepared and equipped and ready to lead people. Because that person now is not there to do the work.
Right.
They're there now to take care of the people to do the work. And so that happens a lot. And so we help organizations to understand what happens when that happens. I call it people vote with their feet. So our
They do.
teams and our organizations become revolving doors because
Yep.
people are constantly leaving. And I'm like, why are we leaning so heavily on our human resource professionals to cast a wide net to attract the best and brightest candidate candidates out there in the pool, bring them in,
Hmm.
interview them, give them a thumbs up, send out an offer letter, they accept, and then they say, okay, when do we start? And then they come in and get their orientation, and now they're on the job just to put them under a leader who's not equipped and prepared to lead them. Now we have this ongoing retention issue. So we have that conversation quite a bit. Now, conversely, and this has everything to do with human behavior. So there's over 8 billion people on the planet, and every last one of us are created to be relational. Every person desires and really craves to be connected to good, authentic, real, meaningful relationships. That's how we're connected. And what happens is in the workplace, these bad leaders, for different reasons, I'm not casting any particular aspersions on them, but perhaps they just haven't gotten the training. It may not be their fault. But when you and I find ourselves under someone who is really, really, really intentional and deliberate about not paying any attention to us, not sharing information with us, not providing resources, not giving any feedback, after a while, it's like there's no relationship here.
Right.
There's no
Right.
connection. So guess what? I'm going to vote with my feet.
Hit the
And that's
door,
what
right?
people do. It's happening
Yeah.
all over the globe, not just here in the United States, where people are constantly leaving because they don't leave the organization. They're leaving that person. They're leaving that
That's right.
leader. They're not leaving
That's
the
right.
organization. They still have friendships and partnerships. people they get along with. But listen, that leader is responsible for their annual performance appraisal. And you're talking about people's mental health, physical health, emotional health, and even their spiritual health
Hmm.
when they're placed under these folks that really don't even acknowledge that they showed up to work. And so I noticed that, and I've just been very intentional and deliberate about doing something about it. And so the training that we provide never comes at an organization or a person from a negative perspective, but it's more in terms of heightening their level of awareness and imparting some knowledge because people don't know what
Gotcha.
they don't know. And I respect that. And we have a conversation about it. We make it very interactive and very engaging. And we want to hear from people what's working and what's not working.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that, Kevin, because the revolving door syndrome is very costly. I mean, you talked about the net that HR has to cast, and trying to find new personnel, bring them on. And it's a costly, very costly, expenditure when you have to keep hiring people. So every person that you bring through the process, from recruiting down to onboarding them, is costing the company money. And I could never really understand why, if you don't listen to anything else, you maybe not pay attention to the complaints that you may be getting about that particular manager or leader from the employees, maybe not even pay attention to their performance, so to speak. But you have to pay attention to the economic side of that when it comes to the money that you're spending when you're cycling people in and out. And I had a job a while back where, they were constantly hiring salespeople. And, sales has some, obviously a lot of rotation in it. It's a high demand position, but in this particular case, when you're, I guess people longevity at the company was less than, a year and a half, 2 years. It just says something about the manager or the leader of that particular department that they're running through folks and that high of a click. And when you start your coaching, or let's say they reach out to you, they call you and say, "Hey, Kevin, we got some problems here. We're not really sure why we can't hold on to employees. We're not sure why, the rotation, people are coming and going." Are companies reaching out to you, or are you targeting companies and trying to address? And if you are targeting them, what are you using to try to, get your foot in the door when you're speaking to them?
Yeah,
Because
it's
I can see
actually
so many areas.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a combination of both. As a business owner, every day is a business development day.
Right.
You spend
Right.
some time, but also, organizations that are really interested in getting better and doing better, improving their culture, heightening the level of the morale amongst the employees, they're always actively looking for someone to give them some advice, some counsel, some training, and some food for thought, right? So it's a combination of both. Now, on a personal note, I absolutely love LinkedIn. I
Yeah.
use LinkedIn quite a bit to just share some different tips around what's happening in the leadership space, things that people should consider. I'm
Gotcha.
gonna do another one this afternoon about the pool side, right?
Nice.
Just kind of
Nice. Nice.
depositing some good information in people.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of in-person events through membership organizations that I'm a part of.
Okay.
And because of my personality, I just really enjoy being around people. They give me energy. I'm finding myself probably 2 to 3 times a month at some type of an event, just shaking hands, getting to know people, having a really, really good professional conversation. How can I
Nice.
help and that type of thing. So that's what really, really
Gotcha.
works well for me. Also, the clients that I work with, always ask them to please provide an evaluation, a review of our services because we're always looking to get better. And by the way, do I have your permission to publish?
Gotcha.
So that
Are
that
you
that works well as well.
okay?
So those are
Are
those are
your
some of the strategies that I use.
Gotcha. Are your clients Primarily, is it B2B, or do you work with, just everyday folks that might want to do some coaching or need coaching for self-development?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. Most of the people that I work with are connected to some type of organization.
Okay.
That's how they discover me. So either folks in their training department or people in the HR department or the chief learning officer, usually within those different organizations, are the ones that reach out and touch and that I actually work with to develop a curriculum and content for their people. But yeah, individuals reach out as well. So the individual executive coaching is something that goes well. As a matter of fact, on my website, I actually offer a complimentary 20-minute executive coaching session right there on the
Oh,
website.
no.
Just go to the contact page and I'm more than happy to do that. Sort of introduce people to the executive coaching concept because a lot of people haven't had one. But that's what works well with me. Again, across the government, work with churches, academic institutions, nonprofits, and also corporations, primarily in the corporation space, primarily small to mid-size. I don't really work with the large companies, the Leidos, the General
Right.
Dynamics, the Lockheeds. I don't do much work with them, but small to mid-size, absolutely.
Okay. So you're in the nonprofit space. Do you find that, let's just say, for example, working with churches, they have a different set of leadership challenges versus the marketplace?
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting, but what's key, I just had this conversation today. What's key is understanding, number one, what's in the mind of this potential customer, this
Hmm.
potential client. What's on their mind? Give them all the room and all the space that they need to share what's on their heart, what's on their mind. And then number two, what is the desired outcome?
Gotcha.
So by doing that, you capture what's happening, what's working, what's not working, who needs to go, who needs to stay, and then what's going to be the desired outcome. And I learned that from Dr. Stephen Covey, 3 decades ago, the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Mm-hmm.
And habit number four is begin with the end in mind.
That's
So
right.
when I have this conversation with people, you know, we're, let's go on a journey. But what's your final destination? I kind of break it down that way. And so we begin with the end in mind and kind of work backwards to kind of deliver them exactly what it is that they hire me to do and some expertise that we can deliver on their behalf, not only to make the individual better, but to make the entire team and the entire organization better.
Got it. When you're working with the organizations, are you just working with primarily at the executive level, or are you doing any coaching with with the employees per se? Let's say if you're working with a church, for example, are you just working with leadership, pastors, and executive team?
No, we work with all four levels of leaders. So you have your
Okay.
aspiring leaders. They're not there yet, but they aspire to lead. Then you have your frontline leaders, those that have been in their position for a short period of time, probably 4 years or less. Then you have your
Okay.
mid-level leaders, somewhere between 4 to 15 years. And then your senior level leaders, those are typically those that have been in their leadership role for about 16 years plus. Regardless of what venue they're in, they tend to fall into one of those four buckets, and then we
Got it.
deliver a curriculum and content specifically for that audience because each audience is different. Only if the client requests their senior leaders to be in the same session as their aspiring leaders, if they request that, we'll make it happen. But we want to make sure we're talking the same language and everybody can kind of understand. So a senior level leader has so much more knowledge and insight than someone who hasn't moved into a leadership role yet. So it may not necessarily be good to have them in the same session, but then again, it might be beneficial. So I let them tell me what it is that they're looking for and what they want to achieve.
Got it. So I think you had mentioned earlier, Kevin. I'm not sure if you told me this or maybe I saw it in your bio. You actually did some training with John Maxwell, right?
Correct.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And was there something that you maybe hammer down on like one thing that you got from that training that you see was just an incredible value add for your practice now?
Yeah, it's an organization. It's an international organization that does a great deal of training, bringing in some experts from around the country who are really top notch to pour into us
Okay.
and helping us to understand what it means to be a trainer, what it means to be a good speaker, what it means to be a good coach and a good mentor. And I was initially attracted to the name John Maxwell.
Mm-hmm.
When he was a
Right,
young
right,
pup,
right.
he was a pastor.
Yeah.
Um, and once a pastor, always a pastor, but
Always
he's
a
just
past. Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
church. But in his 20s, he was pastoring one of America's fastest growing churches in the state of Indiana. And he makes no qualms about the fact that he is a man of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of his training, he specifically references scripture. He's not shy about mentioning the Lord and God, and
Right.
we appreciate that. And he's always been that way. So twice a year, I was certified back in 2016, 1 year before I retired. But every year, twice a year in Orlando, in the month of March and the month of August, there are about 2,000 men and women around the globe that represent about 55 countries that come here to the US to do 4 days, Sunday through Wednesday, of training that that's followed by the initial 90-day virtual training. So there's a virtual 90-day training where we walk you through a litany of different topics, and then you come in person to Orlando for 4 days of additional training, and then that's where you get your actual certification. What's different
Okay.
about this program is that because John is a man of faith, not only does he serve as your senior mentor, so we meet with him once a month virtually, where he pours into us once a month. But there's also, when you come to the live training, you get a chance to interact with all of these different people from around the globe, all these different faiths and all these different beliefs. On Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock, in the middle of the training, we have a worship service
Huh, really?
from 8 to 9:30, and John preaches, and he also has a call to Christ
Wow.
at the end of the service, and we get a chance to witness all of these people come to the stage. We pray before our meetings, and we pray as we conclude our meetings. But here's what really got me in terms of my choice, because there's so many other speakers out here, motivational speakers. I'm not going to name names, but
Right, right.
there I've been following them since my 20s because I've just always been inspired.
Mhm.
But there were only 3 on the entire circuit. When you think about all the men and women who you've heard deliver motivational speeches, there's
Yeah.
only 3 that ever reference the Bible when it comes to leadership principles. The late Zig Ziglar, we
Yep.
lost him in 2012. The
Uh-huh.
late Dr. Miles Monroe,
Miles Monroe,
we
that's
lost
right.
him in
Yep,
2014, and John Maxwell.
yep, that's it.
So the choice for me was pretty easy in terms of who I follow, who I want to emulate, other men and women around the globe I want to be connected to. And again, I'm not saying anything negative about the others, but because he is unashamed to quote the actual source, it's right there in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verses 6 through 8, where leadership is a gift from God, and we are not to misuse it and we're not to abuse it. And but those are the only 3 that I ever heard actually reference Bible when it comes to leadership. So I have a great
Yeah.
deal of respect for those 3. It's not that I disrespect the others, but those are the three that I chose to follow and still follow. Zig Ziglar, I still listen to him. Dr. Miles
Me
Monroe, I
too.
still listen to him as well.
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
they're still here. Their voice
Yep.
just
Yeah.
resonates with us, and
Yeah.
the principles are
Yeah.
powerful.
No, you're right. I mean, those are my top three as also, man. I probably have listened at everything I could get my hands on from Miles Monroe and also John Maxwell and Zig Ziglar. I mean, these are the three that you articulated that really hammer home from a biblical standpoint these leadership principles. And I think I mean, because if you really want to know how to be an effective leader, you got to go back to the source. And so they do a great job at that. And it's interesting you mentioned that because I think that's probably for most people, those guys are probably going to be ranked up in there somewhere when it comes to leadership. But what was the one thing that you took away from from the John Maxwell training that and I'm sure you absorbed a lot of information, and you guys have these you're still connected to them, but if there was one thing you could walk away or that you walked away with that you could share with us, what would that be?
I think the biggest thing that comes to mind when I hear that question is around how to be an effective communicator and
Okay.
and how to connect with people, because the words that we say are not necessarily as memorable or
Mhm.
applicable or even relatable as the way that we say it, the
Yep.
tone, and then the body language that follows. So I learned many, many years ago that the nonverbal portion of how we communicate is actually more powerful than the words that people hear. And it took a while for that to kind of sink in, but it helped me to understand why there's so much miscommunication that's taking place, both in our personal and our professional lives, because we hear the words, but we're not really focused too much on the facial expression and the body language. And it's
Right.
that
Right. Right.
nonverbal that really, really speaks volumes.
Yeah, you're right on that. So as we get ready to close out, Kevin, can you tell us, or maybe review with our audience some steps that they can take? Because I agree with you when you talk about, communication being essential and those nonverbal cues. Can you talk to people who may be aspiring to and to improve in this area? Can you give them some tips and advice on what they can do to try to improve in this area?
Yeah, the biggest tip that I can give to all of us, and the reason I love to teach it is because I get a chance to hear it, so it'll apply to
Hmm.
me as well. The
Right.
biggest thing when it comes to communication is remember that you and I have an obligation to be a good listener. And good listening doesn't have anything to do with whether you agree or disagree with what's being said, but it has everything to do with hearing people out. And don't change the subject on them, and don't interrupt them. And sometimes I watch these court shows on TV. I watch these judges on TV, and
Hmm.
I recognize it's entertainment. It's on television, it's entertainment. They got to get the ratings. But I'm watching these poor people trying to talk to the judge, or in some cases, judges, about their
Yeah.
case. And they're telling their story, and they can barely get two, three, four words out, and the judge interrupts.
Yep.
And I'm like, why even bother? Right.
Right,
So
right, right.
oftentimes, what the judge decides in terms of a verdict is just really something they've already decided, and they haven't even really heard the story because they keep cutting people off.
Yep.
And it makes people feel this big when we do that. So
Yeah.
I encourage leaders, hear people out, even if you disagree. Don't change the subject, and don't, because you send a message to them when you hear them out that what they said matters.
Yeah.
And that's
Man,
that's
that's
the one
that's
tip that I
powerful.
can leave.
No, that's good stuff, and you're absolutely 100% right, because most of the time when you're talking to someone, if they spending more time thinking about their response than they are actually listening at what you're saying.
Yep.
And so the art of great communication starts with the ability to be able to listen effectively and like you said, just make sure that you respond after giving them the opportunity to talk and to complete what it is they're trying to share. So that's good stuff, man. It's what's interesting, Kevin, it sounds simple,
Mhm.
but for some people it's
It takes
not.
practice. All of this, everything that we talked about takes practice. It takes time, but just like everything else that we practice, over time we master it, it becomes a habit. So
There you
that's
go.
another
There you
tip that
go.
I leave for leaders as well.
There you go. All right. Well, that sounds good, man. I certainly appreciate it. Can you tell us before we close out how our folks can reach you? And also, you mentioned that you had a book out, right? So you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the best way to reach me is right through our website. So the name of the company is the Johnson Leadership Group, and the website is www.thejohnsonleadershipgroup.com. And all of our different events, the information about the books, some of the podcasts that we've been on, the team, all that information is there for you. I'm currently finishing up book number 3 in the Leadership with a Servant's Heart series. First one came out 2019. Book 2 came out in 2022. And then book 3 will be coming out Labor Day weekend this year.
Nice.
Each book has a different subtitle. So we'll be focusing on your role as a leader in your family. That'll be the focus. That'll be out Labor Day weekend, everywhere books are sold. Looking forward to it.
All right, good stuff, man. Well, listen, Kevin, I certainly appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a blast, and thank you so much for sharing all the great information. And I would just admonish, our audience to make sure they reach out to you and get a hold of some of your materials, take advantage of some of the assessments that you may offer for coaching. And yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on, man, giving us the words of wisdom.
All right. Well, thank you so much and keep doing all the great work that you're doing.
All right. All right. Appreciate it, man.
Okay.
All right, folks. That's it for us today. You guys have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk with you on next week. Take care.